Welcome. My name is Kit. I'm with Pro Miles. We're the vendor for the new eSNOOPI Pro permitting system launching for Washington, the state of Washington. Our focus today is just really a high level introduction to the permitting system, making sure everybody knows how to log into the system, also what it takes to get usernames established. We'll also do a high level training on starting a couple of permits that you guys are familiar with. We'll also run through a couple of aspects of routing and how to achieve a route. Uh, and again, this is just a high level training. We'll touch on a few of those topics. We will have additionally uh, specific trainings in regards to routing and specific permits and superloads and things like that in the coming soon. So without much further, if anyone has any questions, feel free to drop any of those questions in the chat. Towards the end of this call, we'll also have a Q&A session. If anyone has questions that were not answered during the chat, we'll go back through the chat and see if we can't get those answered. So feel free to put any questions you have in the chat. If you notice in the chat, we'll also put the URL or the link to our production eSNOOPI Pro website. That'll give you guys the opportunity to access that website and also get your usernames and things like that established after this call. Or you can do that during the call if you'd like. We'll be here. So without much further, I'm going to go ahead and get this training started by sharing my screen and starting with account creations. All right.
Kit, before we get started,
Yes,
there
ma'am.
are several people with cameras on. If you could please turn off your cameras because it ends up taking up part of the display screen with the cameras on. Thank you.
All right. Start here. Thank you, Michelle. Can everyone see my screen okay? All right. So, okay, so this is what the login page will look like when you first access eSNOOPI Pro. You notice there is a link at the very bottom that says create company account. So as a self-issuer, you'll be able to create your own account and log into the system. What you'll have to do is you'll click this link. It'll take you to this create a new account page. You got a couple of options in here, and we'll run through two options. The first option we're going to look at is I have a US DOT number. You will select that if you have a US DOT number. So I have one here for us to create an account with. For testing, you enter in your US DOT number, you click search, and what this does is the system will look for that particular account that's associated with that US DOT number. It gives you back this information here. And we're going to hit create account. What it does, it'll set up your profile. It'll pull in some information here for that account. For our training purposes, I'm going to change this particular email to just my own email address because we are in our training session. And then, like I said, it pulls in information that has been stored in a database. So you cannot edit the physical or mailing address. If you scroll to the bottom, it does give you the opportunity to go ahead and create your user login. So it'll ask you for your first name, your last name, a SAW login username, your email, and your phone number. At this point, if you have a SAW login username that you've created previously, and SAW stands for Secure Access Washington. If you've got a Secure Access Washington login, from your previous dealings with the state of Washington, you can use that particular login here. If you do not have a SAW login, we do give you the opportunity to go ahead and create that SAW login here by clicking this link. So we're going to go ahead and create our user. I'm just going to use my first and last name for this particular login. My last name is Vo, but I'm going to go ahead and add on training to that just so I can identify that pretty easily afterwards. my email in there. And then for a phone number, we'll just put in a phone number. And for a SAW login username, I don't have a SAW login username set up, but I do want to show you guys what or how that process looks. So we'll just click the click here link that opens up the Secure Access Washington website for you to create that SAW login. And then here we're going to hit create that SAW login. It'll ask you for your first name, last name, and primary email. You can add in some more contact information for security purposes, but that is optional. And then here it'll ask you for your username and password that you would like to use. So it pre-filled in some information there that I had saved on my browser. You usually would not see that, but it does give you some information here in regards to what your username, what can be used within your username. You can use letters, lowercase and uppercase, numbers, and these special characters to compose your username. So we'll go ahead and do, let me make up a username. Kit, we'll do Kit Training 1. And then our password, it has to be at least 10 or more characters and a special character or a lowercase letter or an uppercase letter or a number. So I'll make up my own password here. And then you also have to attest that you are not, definitely not a robot. And you click create my account. So what this does is there are 2 steps that I do want to point out that you may see when creating your account. This is the first part here. Because I've used my email address for multiple SAW accounts, and that is allowed within SAW. You can have multiple SAW usernames associated to a single email address. At this point, it asks you, it lets you know that you have 1 or more accounts that already exist for this email. So your account has not yet been created. You got 2 options. You can help find existing accounts, or you can go ahead and create the username that you're just now requesting. If you don't continue creating an additional account, that username will not be created. So at this point, in order to create yourself a new account with that email, you do have to click continue creating an additional account. So we'll go ahead and do that. And at this point, it does let you know the second step of that is that you need to check your email. An activation link has been sent to your email. You must click that link to activate your account before you can log in. So we'll give it just a second for me to receive that email, and then I will show you guys what that email looks like. Just a second. Here is that email. If you look here, it does give you what your username is, and you have to click this link to activate your account. If you do not click this link, I'll zoom in a little bit here. If you do not click the link, your account will not be active. So you do have to, check your email to get this URL, this link, and click it. You also may want to check your spam email if you did not receive it in your inbox. That's just another tip there. If you end up not receiving it, think that you haven't received it. So we'll go ahead and click that. Once you click that, it does bring you back here. You can go ahead and log in with the username and the password that you created. What that does, it logs you into the system, into SAW. So at this point, you have established your secure access login. It's active. You've clicked the link. You're good to go. The last part of this, of creating your account in permitting, you need to insert or copy and paste or type in that SAW login username. So the first step, it was starting your permitting account. The second step was establishing your SAW login username. And then you have to come back to permitting to finish creating your particular permitting account. right? So this is the SAW login username that I just created. I'll go ahead and enter that in here, and then we can click Create Company. So once we've created our account, you're notified that your account was created successfully. So you can just click Return to Login. At this point, let me close our browsers here. Is that email? At this point, let's say you're starting your day. All right, you're needing to go to log into permitting and create permits. We got a couple of options here. Give me 1 second. All right, so once you get back to your login page, you click sign in as SAW user. And then again, you're taken back to the SAW login page. We're just going to go ahead and sign in with that user that we just created. All right, and we'll submit. What that does is it logs you into SAW. And this is the first part you're going to see because this is the first time you're logging into the system. There is a terms of service agreement that you have to attest to in order to access the system. You can download this, you can print it, you can just read it on the screen. But it is the eSNOOPI Pro Self-Issuer Terms of Agreement. And then you hit accept. Once you hit accept, you'll be sent over to permitting the dashboard. So, and again, that is something that you accept one time. You will not see that, upon your next login, but you do see that the very first time that you do log in. And every user that you add to the account will see that. They'll need to accept that as a self-issuer agreement before they can access the system. So that is establishing an account with a USDOT. That is with creating a new SAW login username. From here, I'd just like to log out. What I would like to do next is show you how to create an account without a USDOT.
While Kit's doing that, if everyone could please disable their cameras because it takes up part of the display screen for the demo.
We're back on the login page. So we're going to start fresh. We're basically a new user to the state of Washington, a new hauler to the state of Washington. We're going to need an account, but we do not have a USDOT. We're just a non-commercial carrier. So at this point, we still need, let's say we're carrying our boat or something like that. We still need a permit. So, but we do need to have an account. We'll click create account, create company account. And like I said, there are a few options here. The first one we looked at was a user that has a DOT. We're going to select, for this one, we're going to select that I am a non-commercial carrier and do not have a US DOT number. Click create account. And because I'm my own basically entity here, I'm going to use my first and last name as the company name. And then you can also put in a DBA if you're working, if you're doing business as, and then of course a phone number. It'll ask you to fill this information in because we did not provide a US DOT number for us to pull that information in. So I'll go through and put in this information. Then an email. And then it asks you to select a delivery method. What this is it basically allows you to select how you would like to receive your permits. And it defaults to web download so that you can log in and download your particular permit PDFs. Then, of course, you got to enter in your physical and mailing address. So we'll go ahead and do that. All right, and then I'm just for ease. If you have a different mailing address, you can do that. I'll just do physical. And that or same as physical, excuse me, and that will copy down the physical address. And then here it's the same process. Each user has a permitting account will also need a SAW login. And again, if you have a SAW login username established previously that you would like to use, you can enter that here. If you do not have a SAW login username that was been previously established, you can create one here. And we'll go ahead and create a new one here just to show you guys once again what that looks like, because I know that there's quite a bit of steps to that. So, all right, we're gonna go ahead and click here to create your SAW login account. And again, what that does is it brings you to the SAW login page. Brings you to the SAW login page to sign up for an account, and we'll just go ahead and create another account for myself. And we'll just bypass the contact information. And again, the browser pre-filled in my username and password just because that's how I had my browser configured and saved. So normally you won't see that these fields preset or pre-saved within the information, unless of course you've got your browser set up that way too. But we'll make up a new username, and I'll just make up Kit Training 2 with a password. And again, your usernames and passwords have to adhere to those requirements from SAW. Of course, you have to be human, a robot. And then we'll click Create My Account. And you'll see that once again, I get this message that I have more than one account associated to my email. So in order to create this new account, I will click continue creating an additional account. And again, if you do not click this link, it will not create that additional account. At this point, your account has not been established. So you do need to click create this if you're looking to create a second login or additional logins under that particular email address. All right, and give it a minute to receive that email, and I'll show you once again what that kind of looks like. There we go. All right, and again, this is the email that you receive. You can see that it's got my username on there again. We'll just click that link. What that does is opens up Secure Access Washington, and we'll just type in our username here. And submit. I may have submit too many times. All right, so we're logged in. We know that the account has now been established and it's good to go. We come back to permitting or eSNOOPI Pro. We'll enter in that login, the username that we just created, and click Create Company. I clicked that button one too many times. Our account has been established. And we'll click return to login. So at this point, you should be able to log in with your second, or excuse me, your login that you just created. Let me go back to our website. So when you start your day, if you're looking to log in and get permits for your own company without a US DOT, you would click sign in as SAW user. It's the same process. Okay. And once you're logged in, once again, since this is the first time I've logged in with that second user we created, you do see the terms of service. And again, you can download it, print it, but you do hit accept here after you have had the opportunity to read through the eSNOOPI Pro self-issued terms of service. Hit accept. And now we're logged in as that second company that we created. Now, if we go to company management, we can see that the company name is KitVo, which is my name. I'm permitting or requesting permits that will be for myself, whether it's whether I'm hauling a boat or some other piece of equipment where I don't have a US DOT number. So that's how those are two different methods that we have in creating accounts with a USDOT and without a USDOT, where you can permit yourself with your name, your first and last name. One other thing that I do want to show you guys in as far as account creation goes is we log out here. Let's say that you're trying to establish an account. So you click this create a company account link. You click I have a USDOT. And for example, if your account has already been established previously, right? Let's say you use a USDOT and we hit search. If for some reason your account has been established previously, you'll see this message here that gives you next steps on what you may need to do in order to get your access to eSNOOPI Pro. So I'll give you a second to read that. It gives you the phone number to the WSDOT permit office. It also gives you the at the end here, it gives you our support email if you need to reach out to us for any additional assistance. It also gives you the URL that you need to go to create your SOL login if you have not yet established one. You'll notice that this is a test access. In production, you'll be able to see that there's a real production login that you'll be able to use to access and create your SOL login account. I also do want to show you the next message here that you'll see. Let's say you go to create an account for a USDOT that does not exist. Say your USDOT does not exist in the PRISM database that we use to create accounts. Or maybe you typed in an incorrect number that's not a legit USDOT. If you hit search, what that does is it tells you that the carrier is not found. It still does not let you move forward with creating the account. Right. So at this point, we've talked a little bit about how to create an account with a USDOT, how to create an account without a USDOT, what steps you need to take if your account has already been established previously. So that's pretty important there because some of your accounts may have already been established by permit agents in the last few weeks. The next thing I do want to look at is how to use the system, right? Briefly, we'll explain how to use the system, how to order a couple of permits, and how to add contacts and how to add vehicles to your company. So let me log in as one of the users here that we just created. All right, we're gonna sign in as the first user I created with a DOT number. Okay. So we're on the login page here. As a self-issuer, you'll have this link that says order new permit at the top. This is where you start your new permit applications. Any permits that you've issued or ordered previously, or even permits that are in progress, will be listed here in the permit queue. As you can see, since I'm a new company that I have not started any permits yet, it says no permits were found at this time. There's a link on the left-hand side that says shopping cart. This is where permits that have been approved but not yet paid for, that you haven't paid for yet, they'll be housed in the shopping cart. You can see on the right-hand side, there's also a shopping cart area that kind of tells you how many are in there pending payment or ready for payment. And then the statistics panel is kind of where you'll be able to see permits that have been self-issued by you and permits that have been issued today for your particular company. And then this messages panel, this is where you'll be able to see messages that are being announced by either WashDOT that are you know, maybe upcoming holidays or things like that, or upcoming office closures for the holidays. Just general messages that could be put there by the permit office or by the state of Washington, you know, as an announcement to self-issuers. You'll be able to see those listed in the messages section there. On the left-hand side, we call this the administration panel, the admin panel. What this does is it gives you access to different functions within the site and within your company. So the company dashboard, we're sitting here by default. That's why this link is highlighted kind of a green color there. If you click on company management, that takes you to the company management page. This allows you to change a couple of things with the company itself, whether it's the email or the delivery method. You won't be able to change the company name or the DBA. Those are pulled in from the Prism database. And then on the second page here, you get the company assets. Here, you can change quite a few things. You can edit the contacts. We'll go ahead and create a new contact. Once you click that, it gives you a couple of options. You can choose your contact type, which is defaults to business. And then you can you can add a new contact to your account, which we'll go ahead and do that. Chaz is on the phone, so we'll add Chaz Romero as our contact. And put in his phone number. And that's all that's required as far as a contact goes. We'll hit submit. So you can see it'll add Chaz here as one of our points of contacts for this particular company. And then, of course, you can view your physical and mailing address as well. One thing that I do want to show you here that's pretty neat is you can add as a supervisor for this company. You're the first person. You created this account and you established yourself as a user. So you yourself as the supervisor of this company, you have the ability to create additional users for this account. So since I added Chaz as a point of contact, I also want Chaz added as a user. That way he has access to this particular company too. So we'll click create user. Gonna add Chaz Romero. And then at this point, you do have to have their SAW login, that person's SAW login insert into this field. It would be best if Chaz already has his SAW login established. He would let you know, this is my SAW login, and you would be able to type that in here. So Chaz, that's his login. You could put his email in here. And his phone number. And then you can set him up as a specific user type, whether it's a user or a supervisor. The difference between the two is that a supervisor has the ability to add additional users and make changes to other users, whereas just a regular user does not have that ability. So for us, we'll just add him as a user. And then for preferences, you can change his preferences, or he can do that on its own once he has access. But we'll just go ahead and hit save. Oh, my phone number is not in the right format. Hit save. And then this adds basically a user tied to this particular SAW login for Chaz to log in. We won't ask him to log in, but I just wanted to show you guys how to add additional users to your company. So we go back to company management, company assets. Now we have 2 users listed here. Myself, which we created when we created the account initially, and then Chaz, that we added after the fact, after after the company had been created. All right. You see here, this is a vehicle section. We'll move on to adding particular vehicles. So if we click create new, we can add vehicles to your specific company. So we got a couple of things that are required when you add a new company, or excuse me, when you add a new vehicle to your company. It'll ask you for a unit number, make, year, VIN, plate, and state. So we'll just go ahead and type in this information. All right, we're just going to Kenworth. We'll select a year. And then we'll put in a VIN number. Let me pull up a VIN number that I have here. And then we'll use plates. The real plate that we have there. Select Oklahoma for this one. You also have the opportunity to go ahead and select, what your Washington registered GVW is for this particular vehicle, and even what vehicle type it is. So those aren't required at this particular moment, but we can go ahead and submit this one. So that's how you can add vehicles to your company's inventory, your vehicle inventory. That's just one method to do that. You can do that here. You also have the vehicle import option here. The vehicle import, what this does is it allows you to import a spreadsheet of vehicles. Let's say you have a fleet of, very many vehicles, whether it's 5, 10, 100, or 50. If you have a spreadsheet of those, you can choose file here and upload a file of those particular vehicles to be uploaded to the system. So in order to do that, you do have to adhere to these rules here. Your spreadsheet has to be made basically in this format. So we'll go ahead and choose file. I think I have one saved here already. All right, so I've got one saved here. We'll open it. Once you upload your file there, you do have to make a couple of adjustments to it. You have to read through each of these drop downs to make sure you identify each of these columns correctly. For example, this one here says unit number is in column, and then you have to select the correct column that particular set of data is in. And it does try to identify that for you when you upload the spreadsheet, but it is best to go through each of these to make sure that the system does identify correctly. So for unit model year, it's set to 2. The vehicle make is in column 3, and that's correct. The VIN is in column 4, and that's also correct. The license plate number is in column 5. The license plate state is in column 6. The type is in column 7. The terminal is in column 8, which is not right. We can just change that to 9, although we don't have any terminals listed in our spreadsheet, which is okay too. You can leave that blank because that's one of the options available to us. And then the Washington Registered GVW is in column 8, which is blank. That's optional as well. And then this is important here. It asks you which row the data actually starts on. The data in our spreadsheet actually starts on row 2, right? It's asking you which row the data your vehicles start on. So we'll select 2. As you can see, row 1 is actually the header row within that spreadsheet. So we do need to select 2. So we'll select 2. Then we'll hit import sheet. So what that does is it goes through and imports not all of those vehicles within that particular spreadsheet. It tells you how many of those were successfully imported and how many of those were failures. If any of those were failures, they would be listed here with a reason as to why it failed, so that you can go back, to your spreadsheet and correct that, and then upload that a second time. So if we go back to company management, we can take a look at company assets. And if you recall, for the vehicles earlier, there was just that one vehicle that we had added. Well, now we've got all of the vehicles that we just added. So that's a quick way to import a spreadsheet of vehicles. You know, especially if you've got a fleet of, like I said, 50, 100 vehicles, you can use that particular import function to quickly import those instead of having to upload those or insert those one at a time here. So that's how you manage a few aspects of company management. I do want to go ahead and dive into a couple of how to basically order some permits. Here, that's our next things here. Just a second. All right, so now that we've got our vehicle submitted excuse me, imported into our company data, we've got a second user established in Chaz. We can go ahead and start ordering permits, right? As you can see, there is the new permit. You can order a new permit link here. We'll go ahead and click create that, click order new permit. It does let you know you're ordering for your company. And then of course here we have a US DOT, so we hit next. What this does is it checks your DOT, make sure that your DOT is passes our PRISM check. We'll just hit OK. Here, the contact information defaults to your contact information that you're logged in as, right? Since this is the contact name defaults to my name because this is the name that I had chosen whenever I established my login. And of course, it defaults to my email. If Chaz were to log in and do a permit while he's logged in, it would default to his contact information because he would be the one starting this particular permit. Hit next. And then here we do have a couple of permit types that you can choose from, whether it's monthly, single trip, or temporary licensing fuel. We're going to go ahead and click single trip. And then this gives you an additional list of permits to choose from. We're going to choose oversized, overweight. And then here at the very bottom, it gives you the opportunity to select your start date. Basically, do you want to start your permit today, or maybe you're ordering in advance and you want to issue it out for it's Friday, so maybe we want our permit to start on Monday. So we'll go ahead and do that. All right, so you can select it a few days out or up to, I think, 60 days in advance, or for this one, it may be 30 days since it's a single trip. But you definitely can start it in advance a few days if you need to. There we go, and then we'll just hit next. The next page is you will select your power unit, your vehicle. So you got a couple of options here. You can manually type in this information, the unit number, you can manually select the year, the make, the VIN, or we have this find from inventory button. If you click find from inventory, what this does is it lets you search your inventory to select any particular vehicles. And then of course you can select by unit number 103, and that'll start to narrow down your vehicle options, right? Or you can search by VIN or search by plates. So that's a couple of options there as far as how to select a particular vehicle. You can hit select, and then you can hit OK. And what that does is it populates this information for you for this particular permit because you had uploaded this vehicle previously. And then we'll go ahead and select a vehicle type. Now, since we didn't save this vehicle with a vehicle type earlier, you do have to select a vehicle type during the permit application. We'll go ahead and select tractor trailer. And then we'll hit next. When we hit next, what this does is it verifies your VIN and your plate and your state and gives you information that is saved with the state of Washington. So this is informational. This is something you'll review. It is not something that stops you from getting the permit. It's just based on the VIN and the plate that you entered. this does gives you information that is saved in the state of Washington. So we just hit OK. Here, it asks you to select your commodity type and enter in a load description. Here. So we'll go ahead and select, let's see, construction equipment. And you got a list of a few different options. For us, we're going to go and select construction equipment. For a load description, we're just going to enter a loader because we'll be hauling a loader. And for our dimensions, it's going to ask you for the width, the height, the length, the overall length, the front and rear overhangs, and GVW. So go ahead and enter that information in here as well. So for our width, we're going to be 11 foot 8 inches. And as you can see, as I type it, go ahead, it'll fill in your metric values for you. And that works vice versa too. If you enter in your metric value first, it'll give you the standard height in inches there. But for me, we'll go ahead and enter in the standard value. So 14, we do 14.6 for the height. And the overall length, we're going to use 75 feet and 0 inches. And for our trailer or load length, we're going to do 53 feet 0 inches. And then our overhangs, we'll just type in 0 and 0 because this particular load we don't have any. And for our GVW, I'm going to type in 125,000 because I'll know that's the GVW that we need. And then we hit next. So this is the axle weights and spacings page. This is a little bit different than what you guys are used to. It's new, but I think you guys will grow to like this one a little bit more because what it does is, what this allows us to do is it gives us the optimal, safest route within the system by entering in your dimensions and then, of course, your weight per axle. This is not actually an axle report. What this does is it captures your individual axle weights and spacings for this load. That way we can give you the best route possible. So it does ask you to, identify your axle count. We're going to go ahead and make this a 7-axle configuration. You can click this plus sign to add in your axles. So as you click, as you can see, it gives you the axles, additional axles here. It'll ask you for your spacing, your weights of each of these axles, the tires or the number of tires, and then of course your tread width and axle widths. And then of course you can identify whether it's the axle type here also. All right, and then we'll just go ahead and fill this information in. 12 feet 0 inches, 6 feet. 6, 6, 5, 5. So after we've got our spacing in, we can enter in our weights. And if you want, you can actually copy and paste this information into the next field so that you're not typing that in manually. And then, of course, you got to select your number of tires. For this configuration, I'm going to select 2 for this second axle. And we'll make this one a drop steerable. And then you got a couple of options here. You can select your tread width. This is the tread width in standard selection, or you can toggle this to metric, which gives you the metric selections here. So I'm going to just use metric because a lot of people are familiar with the metric tire sizing and tire tread width. My tire tread width for this one's going to be 295 and 295. And then, of course, it gives you your total weight and your total spacing. And then we'll hit next. So what this does is it gives you the opportunity to also add on additional tonnage. And then if you read through here, we had selected that we do not have any Washington registered weight earlier, but based on our actual entry, uh, your excess weight is determined in fees of 125,000. That's what we're using to determine our fees. If you've purchased a trip or additional tonnage permit previously that is applicable for this overweight travel or vehicle, you can check this box, or you can continue and it'll charge you the tonnage on this particular permit application. So we just hit continue. And then here we have our route page. We got a couple of options on this particular route page that we can do. It defaults to address. So you can select address if you know your address that you're going to or from. You can start at or go to an intersection. You can select latitude and longitude, which a lot of people like this latitude and longitude option because what that allows you to do is just to find a point on the map. Basically, find a point on the map that you're starting your travel. So if you click find, what this does is it opens up the map here, and it basically lets you play around with the map and also um, find where you're going. You can narrow your search down if you want to focus on a single city, but if you're familiar with the state of Washington and where you're wanting to go, you can just simply zoom in to where you're wanting to start your travel. And with starting a travel here, what the lat long does is it lets you pick a spot anywhere on a green highlighted road that you're starting your travel. A lot of times you won't be picking a route, that's basically starting on the highway. You're going to come off of one of the local roads there, but it does allow you to pick anywhere on the map that you're starting your travel or ending your travel. I would also like to let you know that we're going to go ahead and select a route here, but we will have additional trainings for you guys on in the coming weeks on how to use this functionality specifically, and also how to route with specific routes using via points and via highways. We'll show you guys that also. But for here, we're going to select that. We're going to select our route here, and then we'll just hit done. So what that does is it puts the latitude and longitude there for us for the point of map on the map that we'd selected. And then our destination, you got a couple of options here. One new option that we're using that we added for you guys is mileposts, right? So if we select mileposts, what that does is it gives you the opportunity to select which road you're going to be traveling on or which road your destination is on. It also gives you the direction of travel that you need to select, eastbound or westbound, based on the route that you selected. And you need to enter in which milepost you're using. It tells you that the max milepost for the selected route is 334.51. So I'm not too familiar with the milepost in Washington, so we're going to select 330. We're just going to type in 330 there. It also gives you the ability to select find. When you select find, what that does is it gives you all of the mileposts, right, that are on the route, that are on the highways in the state of Washington. So there's a lot of orange dots. If you zoom in further, the orange dots become smaller, but it gives you the counts, the mileposts there on each of these routes. If you zoom in further, it lets you know that each of these are a milepost. So you can select it. If you select one of these orange dots, it tells you that this is route US 97, the direction, the milepost number, the latitude and longitude, and then it gives you the ability to go ahead and select that as your ending milepost location, or the origin if you want to use it for the origin. It's the same concept, and how you can select that as a routing option. So once you've got your route, we'll just hit the route button. What that does is the system will take your origin, take your destination. It also takes your your dimension that you entered along with your wax weights and spacings, and then make sure that you can safely travel from point A to point B based on what you entered. And you can do that safely, and and if that would be the best route for you. So this is the best route. I know it's a little short route, but for training purposes, that's kind of what that looks like. But we'll go ahead. What we could do is, let's say you made a mistake and this is not actually where you're wanting to end your route on. We can open up the trip entry panel, hit find, and then we can actually change that particular milepost location. So let's say that's where we're wanting to go, wanting to start a route, but we're wanting to maybe end at a different location. So let's zoom into this city here, Colville. And then maybe we're wanting to end at this particular milepost instead. So we'll select that, and then we'll hit select. And then it puts that milepost here for us for the destination, and we'll hit route. So what the system does is, again, it does a routing in the background to give you the optimal route that it thinks that would fit your needs, and the safest route based on your entry. So it does its route. If you're not wanting to go this way, if you know that you could go a different direction, let's say you're wanting to take this route up here instead. Okay. What we could do is tell the system we're wanting to go this route via this roadway. So we have this functionality built in. And again, I'm just going to touch on this at a high level. We will have additional trainings for this scheduled for you guys. There's this functionality here called add vehicle. If we click that, it gives us the ability to select a highway or enter in a highway that we're wanting to travel, or enter in or find a route on the map that we're wanting to travel. I like to do find on map. That's just easier for me. So we click find on map. What this does is it opens the map back up, and it says, okay, which way would you like to travel, or which other routes would you like to travel other than the one we gave you? So if we zoom in on the map, okay, and instead of it looks like we're needing to go south because there is a southward here because there is a restriction there. That's why it's taking us this way. Let's see, we can't have it take this road instead. So we'll zoom in, and then we'll hit select, and then we can click on this green route. And then if we hit done, it puts that it'll say, take to go from A to B, take this route. We'll hit route. And again, the system will route us through. So what that will, it takes this crazy little loop here because that's not the optimal route for us for this particular route. So what you do have the option to continue adding via points also. So if we click find on map, we can add in a second point. So it'll continue taking this particular road that we're wanting to take. And again, this is at a high level. This is just giving you guys an overview of how you can modify the default route that it gives you. We'll be able to go in and give you guys additional training on how to find an optimal route within the system. So this one is actually going to not give me the that I need. Give me 1 second. So this is giving us a route failure. Basically, the system cannot take this route. There could be other restrictions along this route that is preventing us to get to this way here. See here, there is a restriction here. So we go all the way north to take those 2 roads there. We'll hit this restriction, and then there's no other way to get to that destination. That's why it's giving us a failure at this point. So what we could do is we could go ahead and remove these 2 particular via points. And if we hit route again, it'll give us that default route. And at this time, this is the optimal route that it'll give us based on our point A to B and of course our dimensions and our weight and things like that. We couldn't go north here because there's a red restriction there, and if we took this north way up around here, we would run into this restriction here. So this is the best route here for this particular origin and destination. And of course, like I said, if you in your permitting, if you're looking to try to route it a different way, other than the default route, you do have the opportunity to tell the system to take different roadways using this via points option. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and issue this permit. At the very bottom, you can see that it asks you, are you traveling? If this trip has any local travel, you can go ahead and enter in the number of local miles you're traveling here. So let's just enter in 10. We'll hit next because we're good with the default route. We know that we're going to travel locally, and we'll enter in 10. And it does give you, the restrictions and the instructions, the special permit conditions associated to this particular permit. Hit next. And then here it does give you the mileage that you're traveling, the total miles that you're traveling, including the 10 miles for the local travel at this particular overweight fee schedule. And this is the particular fee amount that will come out to, because we didn't purchase an additional permit for that weight. It's all calculated for this particular permit application. You can review that, the contact information on the summary page, along with your vehicle information and your load information.
Hey, Kit.
Yes, sir.
Hey, looks like somebody from WTA has their hand raised. Want to ask a question?
All right. Let's see here.
I get.
Yep. Go ahead.
My question is back when you were on the routing page.
Yes.
And you were showing us the local mileage, and then you went to the next page. If you go backwards, can you still? Yeah, go previous. Can you still see the local miles?
You can. Let me see here. You should be able to return back to this page and see the local mileage. Yes. Back to this page, the previous page. We'll make sure that is something that you can edit.
Okay, because I had one that I went past and realized that I hadn't put the local mileage in, and when I tried to go backwards, I did not see the local mileage. So,
Yes.
okay.
So yes. So when you go back and forth, you do have the opportunity to change your local mileage if you need to.
Oh, thank you.
Yes. And it does give you this message here that, because because you've gone back and forth, or if you change your route for that matter, it does, let notify you that, hey, your route's different, or it could be different, to just verify that. Great question.
But Kit, did you have to click route for that to display again?
I did in this instance. That's something that we can look into, Michelle.
Okay, just want to make sure they realized to get it to display for now, click route again, and that box will display again.
All right, so at the very end here, we can go ahead and click submit. All right, so our permit's submitted. It's a self-issued permit, so our status is pending payment. We can go ahead and click pay for permits now. What that does is it brings you to the permit to be paid for. You do have to attest to both of these attest statements in order to process that particular payment. The only option you have is credit card as a self-issuer. The first test statement, of course, you've reviewed your permit and acknowledged that all sales are final and that all credit card fees are non-refundable. And then you would just hit process payments. And then, of course, it asks you to confirm before you can go to the credit card payment page. And here's where you would just enter in your information. And I'm just gonna use what's saved in my browser there. This is our test website, or the test payment processor site. Hit next. And then, of course, you'll have to fill in your credit card information, which I have a card on file to use. Next. Pay for that permit. Here, after payment's been made, the system processes that payment. This may take a minute. And then you're able to retrieve your permit PDF at this point. And of course, it tells you what your permit ID and permit number are. And if we open that up, that gives us our permit here. And as you can see, the information that we entered earlier is displayed on the permit PDF. It gives you your issue 2. It tells you this one was self-issued. And of course, your dimensions and your axles are listed here also, along with your commodity type and load description. Further down on the permit PDF, you can see that it gives you the route information, the origin, the destination, your distance, your routes traveled, and also your special conditions. And then, of course, you got a sign here for it to be a valid permit, and then, of course, your fee breakdown. And then here, it's just telling you that you do need pilot escorts for these particular routes based on your dimensions. And then, of course, your turn-by-turn driving directions. And it lists your local mileage here at the very bottom that you entered in previously. And then the last 2 pages is just some general special motor vehicle permits and regulations conditions that are applicable to permits that are issued within the state of Washington. So that is, at a high level, the oversized, overweight permitting process that you guys will see and work with, and basically how to issue an oversized, overweight permit with entering in your dimensions, your axles, and also how to gets a route from point A to B with the ability to also, modify that default route that the system gives you using our via point options on the map. And just to reiterate earlier, we will be having additional trainings in regards to routing specifically. That'll include how to use the via point options and also how to use the milepost options in addition to the other routing options available to you. All right, so we'll go ahead and run through one more permit here. I do want to show you how to, as you can see, if we go back to our dashboard, that permit that we just issued is listed here. You have the ability to copy that permit if you want to, or download that permit PDF. And then also you have the ability to view the details of that permit if you click that little arrow. And the status here is issued prior. What this means is the permit is issued prior to its start date. So right now it's technically issued, but it's not a valid permit because the start date is 1/22. That's the date that we had chose earlier. We're starting it, we're issuing it prior to the start date. So once 1/22 comes around, this status will change to issued. You just got to keep note that, this permit's been submitted today. It was issued today, but it's technically not a valid permit until the start date. So we'll go ahead and start a new permit. I do want to show you what one other particular permit application looks like here. As you can see, we'll just start a new permit application, and again, it defaults to my contact information as I'm the one starting this particular permit. We'll do a monthly annual, and we're going to look at a non-divisible variable size permit. As you can see, this gives you, you can select monthly annual, you can select the non-divisible load variable size option, and it gives you a brief description of that particular permit. And then at the very bottom here, it tells you that you can select your duration. And if you note here, the description, the length is $10 per month, and the height and width is $20 per month. And it's issued in these specific durations here. So you can select 1 month, 2 months, up to 10, 11 months, up to a year. So for us, we'll just select 4 months. And then the system defaults your start date, like I said, to today, with the end date duration of 4 months. So we'll just keep it at the 119 because we're going to want to start this one today. And I can show you guys what that status of this permit is at the end. Hit next. And then same as earlier, you have the opportunity here to either manually enter in your vehicle information, or you can use a vehicle that has been established in your vehicle inventory. You can search to narrow down. Let's say if you have a lot of vehicles, or this is just a brief list. And again, I only had 9 or 10 vehicles in my list here. So it shows us it's easy to pick which one I'd like. Hit OK. And that gives us the vehicle information here. And this here, you can select your vehicle type, whether it's a single unit tractor trailer, truck trailer, or tractor double trailer. And then we'll just hit next. And again, what this does is it based on your entry for your VIN and your plate, it does the background check on the vehicle, that information that's saved to the state of Washington for your information. You know, this is not something that is a stop. You know, it doesn't prevent you from issuing the permit or anything like that, but it does give you the opportunity to review the information that's saved with the state of Washington. If you have any questions on that, definitely reach out to the state of Washington. You know, if you have any questions on the information that is saved here. Okay. And for this one, as you can see, this one's a little bit different than the oversized overweight permit. It doesn't let you enter in what your dimensions are. It gives you the opportunity to select, you know, which one of these dimensions are you wanting. Is it your load width up to 14 and load height up to 15, or are you wanting load length up to 85, or both? You know, one or the other or both. It gives you that opportunity to select which of these options you're wanting the permit for that particular vehicle. And if we go previous, let's say we're looking to select, we made a mistake. We're not permitting a truck trailer. We want to go do tractor trailer instead, right? We'll hit next. It does that check again for you. And if you can see here, we do have a couple of different options now. Again, load width up to 14 feet 0 inches, or load height up to 15 feet 0 inches. But our length is now up to 125. The reason for that is it's based on your configuration that you had selected previously, whether it's a tractor trailer or truck trailer or a single unit. We'll go ahead and select both of these. All right, and we're going to hit next. And here again, it gives you the permit conditions that are applied to this particular permit. And then at the very end, it gives you your fees based on the dimension options you selected, and also the duration that you had selected previously. You can review this information, hit submit. And you definitely do want to review that information before making payment, of course. And again, the permit is immediately ready for payment. I'm not going to go ahead and pay for this now. I do want to show you what it looks like on your dashboard. So our permit ID here, if you want to take a note of that, is 10510. You can write that down. You know, if you're not looking to pay for this right immediately, you can hit dashboard. You can see that it's now in your shopping cart with the total listed there. So let's say you want to leave it in your shopping cart and come back to pay for it in a few minutes once you're ready. You click shopping cart. And then here, of course, if you have more than one, all of your permits will be listed here, and you can pay for them at once, or you can just pay for all of them that are in your shopping cart just by checking them individually. You have the opportunity to view the permit's details. If you'd like, you just click view details. That'll bring up the permit details for you to view. You can cancel the permit, but we're not going to cancel that. We're going to click check out. And what this does is it gives you the opportunity to go ahead and pay for it like we did the other permit there. So as you can see, it'll ask you to attest again. Credit card fees are non-refundable, and you review the permit and acknowledge that all sales are final. Hit process, and then hit confirm. And then again, we'll just use my browser's default information here. We're definitely in the United States, and I am in Texas. All right, a Visa and our credit card. Autofill. Yeah. Next. And then pay for this permit. And you'll see here, it's the same concept as the other previous permit where it gives you the permit ID, the permit number, and you can view the PDF, download it here. So this is the non-divisible variable size permit. Zoom in a little bit here. As you can see, it's the same information that's issued to issuing office is self-issued. What's different here for this particular permit is going to be the load section here. As you can see, it gives you, the dimensions that you had selected: the width up to 14, height up to 15, and of course length up to 125 with a legal GVW. And of course, your route information is all approved Washington State highways, along with the special conditions that were applied to your permit. And then, of course, your acknowledgement and signature, along with the fee breakdown. And of course, the last 2 pages with the general special motor vehicle regulations and conditions. And I do want to show you, if we go back to our dashboard, company dashboard, we can see that we now have 2 permits listed. And again, this one's issued prior because we issued it today, but it's not yet an active valid permit. We issued it, it should become active at that later date. This one, since we issued it today and we had set the start date to start today, the status is issued. That's the difference between those 2 particular statuses. So we're nearing the end of the few things that I wanted to discuss with you all on basically how to start a company with a DOT and create your SAW login at the same time, how to manage that particular company, adding in contacts and adding in additional users as well as vehicles. Also how to order permits, 2 of the more popular permits, being the oversized weight, the non-divisible permits. And also touched on a few routing options. And again, to reiterate, we will have additional route training for you all. We'll get those scheduled. Justin and his team will let you guys know, we'll announce when that training will be, get that communicated out to the industry so that you guys can join that training. That is going to be more routes focused. That way, get everybody familiarized and comfortable with routing, that you do have the ability to accept the default routes that the system gives you, but also you have the opportunity to modify that default route to your needs, obviously. All right. With that, I'll turn it over to Michelle here if you're on, or Justin and his team to see if y'all have any other additional questions or any additional comments before we turn it over to question and answers.
I just wanted to respond to WTA's couple of questions in the chat. So these functions are available currently in the system. I'm not sure which one specifically you were asking about, but the copy function is there now. Is there a specific one you were looking at that you were interested in? The milepost markers. They're in final testing right now. They should be in production next week. You're welcome. So that was all I had, Kit, if you wanted to open it up for questions.
Perfect. Okay. I'll take a look at the chat here too. But if anyone else has any questions, feel free to drop those in the chat now and we can discuss them. Or just let me know if we have any questions. We can go through those. Rory, you have your hand raised. Did you have a question here for us?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Two quick questions. If I understand it correctly, the example you just did where you issued the permit for today, the 19th, but it didn't start till Monday, the 22nd. So if I print it off today, is it valid?
It is not. You can print it off today. It on the permit itself. Let me show you here.
That's what so if if I'm getting ready for the driver's Monday morning, if I print it off on Friday, it won't be valid.
Correct. So if we look at,
you can print it. You can go ahead and print it and get it ready for everything you need. Just the start date's going to say Monday on it.
Yes.
Yeah, that's fine. I just didn't know on the, like the example says not valid permit. So I didn't know if I'm going to hand a permit over to a driver.
No, that's because we're in a test environment. All of our permits say that in test.
Okay, that's just that threw me through a curveball. I'm like, well, shoot, the driver gets way earlier up than I do. So, and then the other question I had was, and I think you went over it, but I just want to make sure I understood it correctly, was so every permit, since the axle report doesn't go into this anymore, you have to individually put in each axle weight spacing on every individual permit.
If you start your permit anew, the answer to that is yes, but we do have the ability to copy your permit. And what that does is it'll copy over your entry that you had previously. That way you can modify it as needed. Something that we are implementing in the near future, is the ability to save your configuration to your company, right? Similar to how we save vehicles. We're going to introduce new functionality that lets you save your configurations to recall those configurations later. So it's not exactly an actual report that we'll have, but we will have the ability to recall previously saved configurations. But for the time being, yes, you do have the ability to copy permits that will copy over, your previously submitted axles. Or you can start new permits, at which point you do have to enter in your axles anew.
Okay.
One additional fact to that, Rory, is that's only for your oversized, overweight permits. You do not have to do axle entry if it's oversized only. So only certain permit types will require axle entry.
Sure. I mean, that's all we do is oversized, overweight.
Perfect.
So.
Okay. Yeah. I just didn't want everybody to think we had to enter axles for everything going forward.
Sure.
Great questions. I do want to go ahead and show you while we were on the topic earlier about the dates. We do list on the permit PDF itself the date that it was issued, 119, but then the effective date at the very top is 122 to 124. Just to point that out also. Let me go back here. Does anyone else have any other questions? Any questions on how to create a SAW login, or let's see, I think we have one other person that says it, right? Amy, you have a question?
Yeah, I'm just wondering when the site will be like fully launched and we'll be able to order permits on it.
We don't have a date at the moment, but we are looking at February, sometime in February in the future here.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. we are excited to get everybody in, trying out the new system, and definitely we are all here for anything that you guys need. Definitely reach out to us. We have we're providing you guys with support emails, and also you can reach out to Washington. Instead of Washington, definitely there, and we're all here to make sure everybody's comfortable within the system. And again, we'll be having additional trainings too, and how to use the site, and how to specifically how to route and how to use the milepost functionality that we're implementing now. So. I know we still have, a lot of time booked for this particular call. So if anyone has any questions, definitely feel free to let us know, either in the chat or, definitely feel free to speak up on this call here.
Hey, Kit, somebody asked in the chat about a tracking measure to identify who issued the permit. Do you mind looking at permit details and showing the changes tab?
Absolutely. Just a second here. Just. Okay. All right, so we're back on our dashboard here. We got a couple of options. We can look at permit details. This arrow here opens up permit details. If you click that, so on the left-hand side, there's a lot of options you have here. You can view general, which is just the general information for that particular permit. But the question, to answer the question that someone had in the chat about tracking who issued the permit and what actions were taken, if you look at the changes tab, it does record the user and what action was taken and when. This is the user's last name. So whatever the user's last name is would be shown here. It shows that I, started this permit anew. And then I basically went through and paid for it. There were no other actions that I took with this particular permit. It does also record actions that were made by state users. If you were to submit this, it'll show you, what actions were taken while the permit was being processed and reviewed. So that does give you quite a bit of information on, which one of your users are starting permits and issuing permits. Great question.
Alyssa has a question in the chat, which I can answer if you like, or you can.
Sure. I can't read it just yet.
Okay. So Alyssa, we don't have any training dates as of yet. We'll do those much closer to launch, so it's more familiar for you, so that you can take that information and go pretty much straight into the system. So once we have a for sure launch date in February, the state will send out communication on their current websites for when those trainings will be. It'll be similar to this. There'll be a link and times posted. But again, it'll be closer to launch time so that you can pretty immediately use that information. Today, we really want to focus on getting you all with your SAW account, getting your accounts and getting logged in and updating your company data so that when we are ready to go fully live, you've already, finished that part.
Okay, so they will use the updated data we put in because the person whose email was listed when I created the account is no longer with the company, so I updated that. So the communications will come to these new updated ones.
Yes, we will also use the information in eSNOOPI Pro and in the new system. We'll be able to use those emails as well for communication for those trainings.
Okay, perfect. Awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Michelle, that if nobody else, I don't see any.
Yep. There is another one that just
Craig.
came in. Sorry. So will the training materials in the top right corner be available at launch within the program? So The help in the top right, I'm glad you mentioned that. That's actually that was not on our radar for some reason. So yes, we'll get that populated, but additionally on the login page, there will be printed training materials with screenshots. There will also be some videos that will be posted to walk through particular areas such as creating the account or routing and changing your route. So there will be 5 videos or so that'll be posted with specific areas of training that you can watch at any time. We hope to get those posted soon in the next week or so that you can start reviewing those even before you get into the system. They'll be available on the login page, so you won't even have to be logged in to view that. So Kit, do you mind going to the login page and showing where those will be located?
Let me log out.
So right down here at the bottom where the helpful links are, the same place where you create your company account, there will be additional links there for training materials and training videos. And additionally, it won't be every permit type that's covered in there, but it'll be the common screens that they share so that you know once you're on that screen, what type of information, how to enter that. Okay, are there any more questions? We have lots of time.
I have one more question.
Sure.
I logged in late, so I missed I was just gonna log in at the 1 o'clock too, but I missed the how to update the user information.
All right, let me log back in here and I can show you what that looks like. Oh, there we go. And you're updating the user's information, is that correct?
Yeah, our self-issuer account basically.
Okay, so we got a couple of options. Company management, if you click that, it lets you manage the general company information, the general contact email, how you'd like to receive your permit, your permit PDFs. And then if you click company assets, that lets you manage different assets within the company, whether it's contact, users, terminals, or vehicles. So it's listed under company management and company assets, really, where you can manage each of those different options. And if you select any one of those options, you can see here, if you click that little arrow or that person's name there, it lets you modify each of the users. And of course, in order to modify users and different aspects of the system, you have to be set as a supervisor. And if you're the first, if you set up the account initially, you are the supervisor. And if you add additional people, you have the ability to identify them as a supervisor or a regular user.
Okay. And then to get to that initial login page, so I'm used to the old.
Oh, okay. So you need to create your SAW account. I think he's gonna need the whole thing. Yeah. Okay, great.
Yeah.
We'll be glad to revisit that.
If you have time, that'd be great.
We do. We have plenty of time.
All right. So in order to establish a brand new account from the get-go here, if you see the create company account link at the bottom, you would click that. And then you got a couple of options, whether it's a USDOT or a non-commercial carrier without a USDOT. So that's 2 options. We're going to go ahead and just do with a USDOT. And I need to find a USDOT on the fly. So for training, I mean, this is our test site. we'll see if we can find a carrier to create an account with here. All right. So if you have a good USDOT, like I said, you just type that in, hit search, it'll find the account, create account, and it starts to set up your company. So here it pulls in any information that's on file with Prism, a database that we use to create the particular account. You can't change the company name, but you can change your delivery method and your email. And then, of course, you cannot change your physical address or mailing address. And then here is where you would enter in your first name, your last name, and your SOL login. This is the important thing here. Your SOL login. If you already have one, you can enter it in here. But if you don't, you would need to click this click here to create your SOL login account. So go ahead and click that. And we gotta fill this information in. The contact information for security is optional for SOL. And here we'll just create our username. And again, for the username, there are a few requirements that you have to adhere to for the username and the password. And those are listed here. So let's do put in my password, create a password. It's like I'm not a robot. You hit create account. So at this point, if you have more than one account under more than one SOL account under your email address, you get this page here that says one or more accounts already exist for this email. And then it gives you two options. You can find your existing accounts or click continue creating an additional account. So at this point, your account's not created yet. If you're looking to create your new account, you need to click continue creating an additional account in order to establish that. So we'll go ahead and click that. And then it lets you know that, does someone have a question? All right, so it lets you know that you need to check your email because it does send you a link to your email that you need to click in order to activate your account. If you do not get that email or if you do not click that link, your account's not going to be activated. So let me find that email and I'll show you what that looks like. Yes. All right, so it tells you what your username is and to click this link to create your account. So we'll go ahead and just click that. Right, so we're logged in. It's our account is active. What we have to do is at this point, our SOL login is created, but we need to finish creating our eSNOOPI Pro permitting account. So since we now have a SOL login that's activated, we can type in that SOL login username here. And of course, you got to fill in the rest of this information. Once you do that, you can click create company. Create that company for us in just a second. All right. Let me see if we can't that USDOT number that we're trying to use was here. All right, we'll just use this company, and it's the same concept. So this is a good example. I do want to show you this. Say, for example, we just created that SOL account. And that means we already have one established. So we don't need to, at this point, we may not need to go through and create a SOL login. We don't need to do that because we can just use the SOL login that I just created previously. So this hasn't been tied to another account. We can definitely use it here. We enter in our SAW login, we hit create company. Our account is successfully created. We can return to login. So at this point, we can just log in as that particular user. Gotta close our account here first. In. All right. Now, when you first sign in, if it's your first time logging into the system ever, like you just created your account, you're logging in for the first time, you do see this eSNOOPI Pro Self-Issuer Terms of Service Agreement. So this is something you read through. You can download it and you can print it. But at the very end here, there is an accept button that you have to click in order to access the system. If you do not accept this terms of service agreement, you won't be able to access the permitting system. So we accept it, and now we're just back on our permitting dashboard. So does that kind of answer the questions that you had in regards to creating a SAW login and how to create your account from the login page?
Yep, that answers what I was looking for. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Kit, we have a couple more questions about the superload process. So right now that is part of what we're implementing, so I can't answer all the questions about how the process will work. But I will say that it's going to eliminate all the emails and different types of communication you have to do outside the system. When you apply for a superload permit, the system's going to recognize it's a superload just based off the dimensions and or the weight. And then that will prompt a workflow. It'll tell you if you need to upload something. Depending on your different weights, you may have to upload something different. I don't really know I don't remember the name of the letter right now that I know has to get uploaded at certain points for certain sizes. But that's part of what we're implementing right now. So as soon as you enter all the information you need, yes, the shipper's letter, thank you. So once everything is entered into the system, you'll finish your application and hit submit on the summary page. And at that point, the application comes to the permit office. They'll review the permit application and make sure that it looks like it has everything it needs for it to be forwarded on to bridge and or regions and or pavement or wherever it needs to go. Once the permit office has done their initial review, they'll hit submit, and then it immediately goes to all those different queues for all of those different people that need to review it. So there won't be any further, having to call or email different areas to make sure they know that they need to look at this permit or give approvals. It's all handled within the system, and all of those different groups will have access to the system and get notification that they have something in their queue to work. One of the biggest questions of the trainings has been, will this speed up the superload review process? We certainly hope so, but also to be aware that the bridge office does still have to review all of these bridges. So it will still take them quite a bit of time to do that. The hope is it will speed up speed up the process because everything's in one place. But right now we don't really know what that's going to look like as far as what the workload's going to be for the bridge office. So for now, I would expect the same, up to 30-day turnaround for those superloads. But, the more we get into the system and the more familiar users get with the system, that will speed up over time. But it should be a much easier, smoother process. And everything that you upload that application, every user that touches and approves that application, all of that you'll be able to see with those permit details that Kit mentioned earlier when you're on your dashboard and you click that green arrow to go to the details, you'll be able to see who all's approved it, who's left to approve, so that you can keep a good status on where everything sits with your Superload application. We will still be using the Superload approval numbers, so that process will not change, but again, it will all be handled within the system so that you're not having to email and make phone calls and do other things. It'll all be kept together with that permit application. Once that is fully implemented, and that's honestly one of the bigger things that's determining when your full launch day will be, once that's fully implemented, that will for sure be one of the specialized trainings before we launch to show you how that process works in the new system.
Yeah, it looks like
Okay.
Jill and Dale have their hand raised.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, so my question on the Superload getting approved, I know they gotta wait for it to go through bridge, but I don't understand if it's in the system with the route, why doesn't it just approve it on the computer? Why does it gotta go through a personal bridge person to look at it, so to speak? And we're always waiting a long time to get a permit when it should be already in your system, the way I see it.
Well, bridge restrictions are in the system, such as weight restrictions, but bridge analysis is not. So that will be coming in the future for the bridge analysis to actually take place in the system. But for the initial launch, the bridge office really wanted to review the permits coming in and the bridges that they were traveling over. So while the bridge office is still having to review that, again, the analysis is different than just a weight restriction. They have a program, they run the size of your vehicle over and go over each bridge that it crosses to do an analysis on that individual structure. And that's what takes up the time. You know, we are trying to give them some tools that will help speed up that process or give them more information. In the future, we will be adding the analysis into the system, but it won't be until the bridge office is very comfortable with our analysis results.
Okay, that's what I was hoping for, is to get it in the system just to speed things up.
Yeah.
It's always a time crunch, it seems like, when we're trying to move the big stuff.
For sure. Once the bridge office has had a lot of time to review the analysis that we incorporate into the system using their same tools, it will definitely speed up. But I really can't give you a timetable on that. They're going to have to feel really comfortable that our results are accurate.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So will the processing time be visible? No, there's nothing in the system that tells us that the bridge office needs this many more days or where they are in their process. You can see that the bridge office has or has not done their review yet, but and if they've approved it, but they won't be putting any type of timetable into the system to let us know where they are or what number we are in that process. Any other questions? Right, Dell, I see you guys still have a hand raised, but is that from the previous question or do you have another question? Please ask all you have, because I'm sure other people are thinking questions. Kit, I don't see anything else in the chat if you'd like to wrap it up.
All right.
Well, and the
You
question
want
came in, hold on, is the process changing for how carriers get nighttime travel approved? So there is a feature on the permit application. Kit, do you mind opening up a permit and getting to that summary page where they can request that, please?
Sure.
So if you need the permit, if your permit is eligible for self-issue, the dimensions, the weights and everything are eligible for self-issue, but you have a special request such as this one, such as nighttime travel. You know, some dimensions allow for nighttime travel, but in this instance, we'll say this application exceeds that automatic allowance. Whenever you get to the summary page of the application, you have a way to request the permit office to review the permit, even though it could have self-issued. And we'll get there in just a moment. And this is true for all permit types. Take just a moment to get to the summary page. So when you get to this final page of the application, you have a submit button, but you also have a request technician review button. So if you'd like to request nighttime travel, Kit, if you can go ahead and click that for us. You put a note into what you're wanting. So in this instance, you're wanting nighttime travel. You would put that note in the permit and submit it for review. And so that permit would then go to the queue for the permit office to review with that note attached. And actually, could we also go log in as the permit office now, Kit, if you don't mind, for that permit?
Sure.
And so when the permit office, you know, gets something in their queue, they'll see your permit come up. It has a little icon on it to indicate that it has a note attached from you. And so if they expand that, they can see the note at the bottom that you would like nighttime travel. And so they can process that permit and add any of those conditions that they need to add to it for you to be able to indicate that you're allowed nighttime travel. So again, hopefully that's a simpler process. You're not having to email or do anything like that. You just say you want technician review, add your note, and then they process and either approve or deny that request. So when nighttime travel is necessary but not requested, sure. So that would be an amend request. And that's also being worked at this moment. Kit, do you mind one more time logging in as a customer? So this amend process is actually being worked today. So if you've already issued your permit and you would like to add nighttime travel for whatever reason that is now needed, you would go where that issued permit is in your queue. You know, and right now you have like a permit details, a copy, a download icon. You'll have another icon that says amend request. And then when you click that, it's going to do the same thing. It's going to open up a text box where you can tell the permit office what you'd like to have amended, such as adding nighttime travel. And same thing, it'll come to their queue. Even though the permit's already been issued, it'll come in as an amend request. And same thing, they can approve or deny it. If they approve that amend request, you'll get a notification that you need to go print the updated PDF from your shopping cart. Even though there's not a fee for it, possibly, it still would be in your shopping cart as a free permit. So you go print that, and that actually issues or activates, if you will, that new amended permit. But both of those, the amend feature and this whole superload process, all of that will be in the system before you guys actually launch. And so when we do training right before launch, we'll show you how to do all those in the system. Okay, Leo, you have some questions?
I understand got to enter all your spacing manually. Why can't we use our actual spacing number, have it automatically enter?
So we did not import anything from, we didn't import anything from the previous system from eSNOOPI. But one of the reasons is the axle report tends to give you like what your max is allowed. And the new system is looking more at what you actually are for this load, so that you get the best optimal route as far as bridges are concerned. Also, the axle report gave you what you're allowed on every axle if it were a single axle. So like you might have an axle report, for instance, that says 22,000 pounds on every axle. But in the notes below in that axle report, it tells you that's the most for a single axle. But if you use 22 on an axle, you can't have 21 on the next one if it's part of a tandem. So we can't just take the numbers straight from the axle report, because there are in the notes in that axle report that tell you different rules that apply and what you'd have to change based on your spacings or, you know, groupings. And so we can't assume what those grouping changes would be. So that's another reason we couldn't pull those in. So we are adding a feature to be able to save axle configurations so that when you pick a vehicle, it'll already have the axle configuration saved with it. It's not in the system at this moment, but that is something we're working on.
Okay, well, to add that on the axle configurations would be, say if I put the booster on the back of my low bed, so I'm adding a fourth axle to my trailer, which is an option depending on what I need to be legal. Will it save it individually?
Yes, you'll be able to save more than one for that vehicle. More than one configuration.
That'll be handy because it'd be very time consuming to input all that every time.
Right. I agree.
I missed the very first part of it. And I've been in and out. What website or what URL do we need to go to first to get to eSNOOPI Pro?
The website is eSNOOPIPro.com.
Okay. All right, that'll take us.
That'll take you to the new site where you can create your account, and someone just put it in the chat too. So if you have access to the chat, the link's right there.
Yeah, I think that's all I got. Okay.
All right, great. Well, looking forward to doing some more training so we can show you some things in the system. All right, Jackie, you had a question?
Yeah, so my question was where he put in those special requests or comments with the night travel. We've had circumstances where we've had to take oversized loads across 520 bridge, which would just typically be denied. And so I would have to actually email them over and then they'd get approved. Because there's only one direction of travel to come off of that job site. So in a circumstance like that, would you go to the same place and just add that into your comments?
So in that situation, you're probably going to run into an issue on the route page, like it's not going to give you the route you're looking for.
Yeah.
And so also on the route page, there's a button at the top of that page. Once you've entered your origin and destination that says, I need help with my route. So on that page, actually at the route, you could tell them exactly what you're trying to do so that they could override some restrictions to get you into that job site or to do the contraflow that you need to do for that directional change.
Okay.
So you could do it on the route page or you could do it on the request page, but likely you're not going to be able to get the route you're looking for. So you can get a route failure. So you're going to have to put that note on the route page to move forward.
Okay. Thank you.
You're very welcome. There's another question. It sounds like the amend request could also be used to ask for a technician review of a variety of things like variants of travel through dimensional restrictions, permit date amendments, vehicle changes, etc. You are correct that that amend request will be used for all those types of things. There will also be a self-service amend coming before you guys get into the system that will allow you a one-time change for a permit, for a date extension. If you've entered the plate wrong or something like that that you need to update on the actual PDF, customers will be able to do a one-time amendment on their own. They will also be able to do a transfer on their own. But if it's something outside of what a customer is allowed to change, such as adding nighttime travel, that type of amend request would have to go to the permit office. Do you have another question, Leo?
Yes, ma'am. Speaking of bridges, the canal bridge is restricted to 17.5 an axle, but we've been able to get 20,000 pounds per axle submitted manually. How is that going to be on the amend steel, or is that something that's going to be?
So I'd have to let someone from the state respond to that. I think one of the things that's been noticed with the new system is there have been routes going over bridges that they were not aware of or being traveled over. So can y'all still, I'm sorry, I'm getting my internet's in and out.
Yes, we can.
Okay, good. Sorry. So there have been some instances, like I said, that the state has noticed some routes were happening in eSNOOPI going over some bridges that shouldn't have, which is another reason they're not going to use the axle reports. So I don't know about that particular bridge. That's not one we've talked about. The other one with the contraflow I was familiar with, but is there someone from the permit office still on the call that can answer that question?
Yeah, I can answer that. So I think it's going to be the same situation as Jackie's, where when you're on that routing page is when you're going to submit the note to us that you're trying to travel over the Hood Canal Bridge, and then we would review it.
And so will those route change requests be monitored and reviewed in real time? The permit office has a queue that different people in the permit office will be, I'm not sure what their business practice is going to be as far as who's assigned to the queues which days or who's doing phones, but things come to their queue immediately as soon as you put in that request. So as soon as they work the permits that came in before yours, then they would get right to yours. The permits do come to the queue in like a timestamp order, so they know what order the requests came into the queues. But they plan on getting those in and out as quick as possible.
Also,
Jack,
I have one other question possible. When our trip starts on a county road or a city street or whatever, we start our permit there. We started it when we hit the interstate. They want us to go one interstate across the city street or county road to another state highway.
So your permit's going to actually start on the state network. If you do put in a location or click on the map at an area that's not on system or not on the state network, it will tell you you're not on the state network and will show you some places on the map like that are closest for you to be able to click onto this state network actually, because that's all that permit actually covers. It does not cover, anything outside of that. But it will assist you if you put in a place that's not on network. It'll assist you in finding the closest place that is.
Okay, so if we start on, say, Highway 162 in Ording and go to little town that I can't think of right now, and then go across country to Highway 410, we got 2 separate permits, or and then that mile marker, cross country, then start on Highway 410.
So you're cutting in and out a bit. Is there someone from the permit office that can answer that question as well?
I didn't hear the question. He was cutting out quite a bit.
I'm sorry. If we're starting on a state highway in Ording 162, and we go up to the little town that I can't remember the name of right now, and go across country on a county road and end up on Highway 410, we need to do 2 separate permits, or can we have 2 different start and stop permits?
Michelle, would this be where he would use split trip if he's starting on a state highway and then going onto a county road and then getting onto another state highway?
I think Michelle, internet may have dropped out. So sorry, she may have jumped out on that. What was that
That's
question?
okay. So I think what he's asking is he's starting on a state highway and then he'll be cutting onto a county road and then getting back onto another state highway. So in this case, I think he would be using the split trip feature. Is that correct?
That is correct. You would have to use the split trip feature for that. And of course, the approvals for that off-system travel would have to come outside of the system. But the split trip functionality will be a part of our additional trainings that we are going to be scheduling.
So Leo, it will be the same permit. You don't have to do 2 separate ones. It'll be a feature called split trip, which we'll go into, it sounds like, into other trainings.
That was all I had for now. Thanks. Thank you.
All righty, so we'll go ahead and start to wrap this up if no one else has any other questions. But like I said, we will have additional trainings incoming, and you all do have our support email. If you have any other questions or needs, please feel free to reach out.
I have one more question.
All right.
So have you guys considered bringing in any of the ferry permits for oversized vehicles? Because this has been a real issue with my company, is getting permits for oversized or overweight loads that we know are fine, but trying to get the permits could take up to a week.
So that I will have to let the state answer that as in regards to permits for the ferry.
Our office doesn't handle the ferries, unfortunately. That is the ferries division directly. So at this time, I don't think there's anything that we can do with this current program to add ferries into it.
Okay. I was just curious if anybody else was having those issues or if that's something that, we could try to address in the same format. Doesn't sound like it's on the radar. Okay.
All right. So we'll go ahead and close this out. Like I said, you all have our contact email. Please feel free to reach out if you have any other questions or needs. Thank you, everybody, for your time today. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.